and this is a re-implementation of the original game, but the changes here are mostly cosmetic with all sorts of upgrades to the components, but there are also some rules tweaks and improvements as well, and also a few new mechanisms thrown in, and I'll be explaining all the new rules to the game. But if you are familiar with the original game, this will sound very similar to that original rule set. And this is a competitive 4X game where players are going to be discovering planets, exploring the galaxy, and trying to expand their presence there. Each player starts in an opposite corner of the map, but what's interesting about this game is that players will have different troops and types of ships that they're going to be using to their advantage to explore the galaxy. But in order to do that, this game does incorporate some amount of dexterity, because you're going to be flicking those ships across the galaxy to try and visit those new planets or engage in battle with your opponents. Each player also has their own player board that they're going to be using to keep track of their available troops and any of their ships that they're able to acquire so far, but it's also going to be used to keep track of any of your upgrades or improvements throughout the game, because there's also 4 different technology tracks that players will be able to move up throughout the game, and moving up those tracks will augment your actions or give you some special abilities. But what's new in this version of the game is that each of those tracks is going to be associated with a unique larger ship, and once you completely max out one of those tracks, you're going to be gaining the associated ship for that track. And there are a bunch of different actions you can perform in this game, with most of those actions requiring you to spend a certain amount of troops as a resource in order to perform that action. But this new version of the game also introduces a new system that allows you to spend energy in order to increase the amount of times you can perform a specific action. But the different actions could allow you to recruit troops to a planet that you have some presence on in order to gain more troops there. You can use an action to launch a ship from one of your planets, which allows you to put a ship token adjacent to that planet, but then you're going to be using a different action in order to move that ship. And like I said, in this game, you're going to be moving your ships by flicking them, and you're going to explode if you crash into any already explored planets, or if you crash into any other ship on the board, whether it is yours or an opponent's. But other than each player's starting planet, all the other planets on the board are going to be starting unexplored, which is going to be indicated by having them face down on the board. And if you flick your ship into one of those, that is completely fine, and that's going to allow you to explore that planet and also give you the option to land on it, which will bring your ship back to your supply but allow you to put some troops there for free. There are a few other maneuvers you can try to perform during the flicking, and that's to try and get 2 of your ships within range of an opponent's ship, because if you're able to get 2 of your ships to one of your opponents, then you can immediately delete them from the board and gain yourself a victory point. You can also try and flick your ships into orbit around any of the existing planets, and that will allow you to perform a blockade around that planet, essentially preventing any of the other players from gaining access to it. This new version is also going to be introducing some new free actions that can be performed anytime during your movement. The previous version of this game also had an action known as the mining action, and that has been completely replaced with a new interact action, which is going to be triggering different effects on other game components, such as missions and relics that you gain throughout the game. And these are going to have different outcomes depending on what you're interacting with. So it's just making that mining action a little bit more flexible and making some new possibilities now possible. But like I said, this is a 4X game, and that wouldn't be complete without building some buildings. And once you do land on a planet and you have enough troops there, you'll be able to build different types of buildings. The first one is a research facility, and this one is really nice because anytime that you build that on a associated planet, each of the planets are going to be color coded, and you're going to be moving up your technology track for that specific color. And as I mentioned, those technology tracks are really nice because they gain you all sorts of upgrades as well as possibly a brand new ship. But players can also build colonies on the planets and even eventually upgrade those to full-fledged cities, and these are going to be gaining you even more victory points at the end of the game, which is the final objective here. And the game continues like this, with players taking turns performing any of those actions. And like I said, this new version is going to be including all sorts of component upgrades, including neoprene mats, plastic components, and miniatures, as well as some upgraded artwork on the cards that you'll be using for various missions and special actions throughout the game. And if you are interested in this one, you can check it out. I'll have it linked in the description below. And of course, you can click to get notified.